if you lived in a bad neighborhood or currently are living in a bad neighborhood like myself, you're probably under the assumption that it was bad when you came in and it's going to be bad when you go out. You might be right about the latter, about it being bad when you leave, but how did it get that way in the first place? I mean, what triggers the decline of an area? Some people claim that when minorities move in, that the neighborhood starts to deteriorate. But there's actually a chain of events that cause even the most affluent areas to deteriorate and become impoverished. And it's not about who's moving in, it's about who leaves. So one thing leads to another. So this is the downward spiral. Number 1, white flight begins. Now, white flight is a demographic trend used here in the U.S. to describe when whites of working class and upper class whites, they begin to leave racially minority suburbs and move into white suburbs and exurbs. So, when non-white residents, particularly black and Latino, begin moving into a neighborhood, white home buyers perceive that the neighborhood is in decline and they choose not to move there. Now, residents, fearing that the property's values will fall, begin to move away, even if those moving in are their socioeconomic equals. Businesses and jobs soon follow suit. Once the minority share in community schools reaches 10 to 20%, the white flight accelerates until minority reaches at least 80%. Number 2, property values goes down. Once residents begins to leave, the consequent decline in demand causes housing prices to fall. The non-white middle class is usually not large enough to sustain market demand. So if whites represent 80% of the housing market, then that means that 80% of potential market is now absent. As prices decline, the community's socioeconomic levels changes as well. Poor families begin to move in the homes that were vacated by white middle class, especially when these homes are converted into rental housing. Well, I understand that point. I actually live in a rental housing that's owned by the city. Now let's move on. Taxes go up. White residents take their wealth with them. Wealthy communities have lower tax rates and better services. Resource-poor communities have just the opposite. Why is that? Because public services are largely funded by property taxes. So when a community's total taxes, when their wealth diminishes, the public services begin to get underfunded. Taxes are increased to compensate, causing middle-class residents of all races, mind you, to flee, resulting in a vicious cycle of increasing taxes and further population loss. The poor get poorer, and they get less for their money. Number 4, services suffer. As communities get poorer, they are less able to maintain the same level of public services. School, sanitation, public transportation, your fire department, your police department, all of those services begin to decline, and at the same time, the need for these services increases. For example, when you have higher poverty, there's higher crime. And when you have higher crime, you need crime prevention, and that means higher costs for crime prevention. Eventually, commercial investment falls off as well, and basic amenities like grocery stores and banks begin to disappear, leaving only predatory businesses like pawn shops and liquor stores. Oh, I know about those. There's actually a lot of those in my area, so I wonder, is it going to get worse? And then we have the 5th and final step, which is the worst of them all, rock bottom. The community that hits rock bottom is further susceptible to the placement of highways, prisons, waste storages, toxic facilities, etc. And at times, community leaders will invite these groups in to help stimulate local growth. But sometimes what they miss is that they risk further depopulation and the safety and health of the community, the residents. But I guess it's for the community to get back on their feet economically. But at what cost? And I think that there's one conclusion that can be drawn from all of this, and it's that every family wants the best neighborhood that they can afford. So when schools and public amenities begin to suffer, well-intentioned residents move away, and the once prosperous neighborhoods then become impoverished, which kind of makes full circle. And I think that you'll agree with, well, I don't know whether you agree with me on this point, but you see, race does play a role, but it's not the one that people think. It's not about the whites moving in, but it's about the whites leaving and taking their resources with them that causes communities to decline. And what some people don't realize is that if whites did not leave, this chain reaction might not even take place. But the most important factor in health of any community, of the race of its residents, of all races, it's not about that, but it's about their ability to work across racial boundaries so that they could preserve the resources that they have, their property values, and their opportunities of all kinds. They say all in life we have is each other, and this is true, I'm guessing, if communities can decline because of something like this. So what do you think? On a scale from 1 to 5, where are you on the downward spiral? And do you think I missed out anything, or I should have included more things? Just let me know, and I'd love to hear back from you. Text, comment, or video response. So until next time, MediaMan5005 signing out.